So imagine a task force willing to help protect our environment, having their commander shot by a man engaged in an illegality. A man destroying our environment, but the one who's in there to protect the environment is battling for his life in a hospital. That's the situation we're about to talk about here on the Super Morning Show. The fact that civilians engaged in illegality can pick up guns and shoot at a task force. This is when we're having a conversation about the Small Scale Miners Association Task Force, and their commander shot somewhere in the eastern region. Godwin Armah is the General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners. He's joining us on the phone. And Professor Kwesi is a security expert and is head of academic affairs and faculty at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center. Good morning, Godwin. Good morning, Professor Kwesi. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning. Good morning. So it's a great pleasure.
Great. Let me start off with you, Godwin. So, Godwin, what happened on Wednesday when your team tried preventing persons engaged in illegal mining?
Yeah, the incident happened on the 18th, that's the Wednesday, where the task force were going on their normal patrols to ensure that illegal miners don't pollute the river, the Brim River. So, after reaching the Asamantamfoe and the Ankasi enclave, they spotted some illegal miners there. So they went there, they stopped them from pollution and also degradation of the environment, and picked their pumping machines, arrested some of them. But in the process, some community, youth from the community, that Asamantamfoe area, came with guns, and then in the process, the commander of the task force got shot. So he was rushed to the Chibi Government Hospital and later transferred to 37, where he is receiving treatment now. The NASDM task force, that's the Small Scale Miners task force, were able to arrest two of the guys who brought the pop actions, send them to the Chibi Divisional Police Command. But the guy who shot the task force commander, he's called, I think, Damso. We've got his pictures, his IDs and all that. He's on the run, and he shot me with a pistol. And according to our people, he shot the first one. He tried to shoot the second time, but he couldn't go through. If he has got the second bullet through, like, he will kill the commander on the spot. And this Asamantamfoe area, the enclave inside, they have a lot of illegal miners. And now we have even some land guards who are also hired by some of these illegal operators to protect their illegal activities. We've reported the issue to the police and then the military that we work with. Normally we work with the Southern Command. When there are issues, we report, and then they come and support us in our operations. So that was what happened the Wednesday.
Okay, let me bring in Professor Kwesi. Prof, so these are persons engaged in an illegality, and they have the guts. They actually drive to the scene, pick a gun, and shoot. First question is, why are they so bold? Who could be behind them? Under whose authority could they be operating, or who's supporting them for them to be that bold?
Well, thank you very much. I'll ask you a counterfactual question, although this morning you are agreeing with the questioning. Why shouldn't they be so bold?
Tell me.
The state has failed in classifying this illegality as an existential threat to Ghana. The end result is that when the state itself denies that this illegality is polluting our waters, threatening livelihoods, creating a demand for dangerous banned chemical substances, leading to social vices, And now those who are engaged in this criminality, I will use the word illegal, this is organized criminality, think they have the appropriate networks and the support infrastructure to turn their guns against those also within the state system who are honest, with integrity, and seek to do what is right. Those people on the side of the law will increasingly be perceived as the enemy who needs to be wiped out. But you asked a subsidiary question about the support.
Yes.
And we need to understand the network infrastructure that allows this to go on. Let me go back a couple of years. When former President Mahama initiated his interministerial task force thing, about 5,000 Chinese were deported from Ghana, all coming from one district in China. Almost all of them had legitimate working permits signed by a statutory institution in Ghana, and then that institution overnight said the permits were fake. So they were deported. And therein lies the complexity and the misunderstanding around the Aisha Huang case. Boarding pass produced, supposedly deported, but no government institutions can confirm that she left the country. We don't know how she came into the country again to continue her business. So when you use the word on whose authority, we are looking at the state of Ghana being under siege because its authority, its public institutions that are mandated to protect the interest of Ghana have been compromised. And it cuts across a swathe of national institutions. So when people like this gangster are bold enough to have access to a pump action gun, buy the bullets from somewhere, and is daring enough to fire at a representative of the state, then it just tells you where we have reached. But it is not only in Tamfo, wherever the town is. We don't need to go far out of Accra to see at a place around Amanfro a gangster called Tola Abbas, Red Moro, Black Moro, and Alaji, criminals who think they have the audacity to threaten people in the Amanfro English area in Accra, well armed and sometimes using military accoutrements, uniform. Okay? Black Moro characterizes himself as warrant officer class 2. So the question is, how and why has the state allowed itself and its institutions to be misused in this manner?
I'll get back to you, Prof. I'll get back to you because we've also been joined by Ken Ashigbey, who's convener of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. Ken, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, Winston.
So, I mean, all of us are concerned. We want to all help for those who are concerned, in this fight against illegal mining. But you have persons engaged in this illegality, taking guns and fighting, shooting a member of the Taskforce. Where did we go wrong in all of this, Ken?
Listen, Winston, you said all of us are concerned. You're sure we're all
No,
concerned?
I said those of us who are concerned.
Good. You said those of us who are concerned. You see,
Yes.
and for me, this thing, and well, you have Prof there, who is better positioned to explain this thing more than anybody else, because the threat has always been with us. If you look at from the Operation Vanguard days, the number of arms and ammunition that were seized, and the question you ask yourself is that if the goal, which is a resource that is not limitless, runs out, what would these people do with these weapons that they have? And we're beginning to see that now. And we know the challenges that happened if you just cast your mind back to Sierra Leone. The war that they had. It was basically a war around, illegal mining, diamond mining. And we know how that happened. And we've been saying this thing, but it seems as if leadership itself does not see the risk, inherent in what we are joking with. That with all this insecurity that surrounds us as a country, if we leave these criminal elements to continue doing the things that they do, we are all at risk. That's why, for me, I'm surprised when the Attorney General says that, the police say what Prof from Watson gave, he did not give evidence. But because this is an existential threat, you would expect that we'll go beyond it and find out who is involved in this. Because the impedance you're seeing now is going to continue. The impedance is not going to stop. They're not going to stop it. Now they are looking, they are coming after the state actors. So you and I, who are not state actors, what is going to happen to us? So I think that it's high time, leadership realizes the fact that this is more than just polluting our water bodies. This is more than just people dying out of kidney diseases. This is more than the social challenges, the further water. Our water, we might not have water to drink, but this is an imminent threat that we all need to be dealing with and tackling with all the seriousness that it deserves.
Okay. I'll get back to you, Ken. This morning we're joined by Godwin, Armah, who's General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small-Scale Miners, Professor Kwesi, a security expert and director of the Faculty of Academic Affairs at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, and Ken Ashigbey, who is the convener of the Media Coalition Against Illegal Mining. We're having a conversation about the shooting of the Taskforce commander of the Small-Scale Miners Association, and because they had actually gone to stop persons from polluting the river brim. Now, Prof, let me get back to you. And so you've talked about how the state actors have become compromised. You've asked the question, why has the state allowed itself and its actors to be compromised and used in that sense? For many persons, we believe that our security agencies or the state should be acting in the interest of all of us. If the state is compromised, and in this case compromised in the fight against illegal mining, does it mean that all is lost? We're on a time bomb now because people are now beginning to shoot back. They have pump action guns. Are we on a time bomb?
Well, we've been sitting on a time bomb for quite some time. The fuse has been lit, and the clock. Hello?
I'm listening.
Yes. So we've been sitting on the time bomb for quite a long time. The fuse has already been lit, and we are counting down. Why do I say this? Look, if you were to Google small-scale mining, corruption, and then gun, if you have a very powerful search engine apart from Google, you will be shocked at the number of material that will pop up linking these three things. You will also be pleasantly surprised, or probably not so pleasantly surprised, about the agencies internationally perceived to be involved in this criminality. But I don't think all is lost yet.
Okay.
Because the state's capacity to regenerate itself always much stronger, but what it needs is informed, ideologically savvy leadership that places the interest of the state at the center of whatever it does. A tangential issue to what we are talking about, and I'm really very happy Ken is here with us this morning, because there's a point I want to make later on about the role of the coalition and the media.
Okay.
Guns, look, I've been talking guns for the last 24 years. I sound like a broken record. There are way too many guns, and unregistered ones at that, in individual hands. And they are increasingly becoming more sophisticated weaponry. Furthermore, the attack on these state officials goes further back, because if you remember, earlier this year, there were some videos of Ghana Police Service personnel who were being humiliated because, they had gone to some mining site and some misunderstanding had taken place. So the state is under attack. And for those who don't know history or don't like history, they should watch both Sierra Leone and Liberia. Armed, organized, illegal, small-scale miners are eventually infiltrated, their capacities transformed, their firepower improved, and somebody provides the organized leadership to deliberately threaten the authority of the state. If we take the Ghana case, and Mr. Ashigbey is here, and we look at the extent of galamsey across the country, we don't have the capacity to respond concertedly were we to have X number of violent acts breaking out. And let's not forget, anyhow, that we are located in a terribly insecure environment in which we become a magnet also for other bad guys. But Ken, there is a very disturbing trend in the international literature where people, academics, are now beginning to write about this illegal mining and using approaches to the analysis that does not seem to care about the environment, the destruction of the water bodies, the way livelihoods are threatened, babies are being deformed. And one scholar from Hungary or something, who just wrote something a couple of months ago, quote, "Galamsey is portrayed in an overwhelmingly negative way. Miners are dehumanized and criminalized, conflicting perspectives marginalized, and non-traditional perception emphasized via Chinese engagement." I think for those, and I think the question that you were asked, I think there's a need for a more concerted action that says this is our story. This is our lived experience. Don't sit somewhere in some European country, use the internet, write things that you will not accept in your country, and then tell us to accept it. But this also raises a larger question. Okay? Who wants to frame our understanding of the negative impact of galamsey? Who drives this agenda? Who must be given a voice? Because this is much bigger than the four of us discussing this topic right now. Because the temerity to get a gun and to fire at a state representative takes a lot of gumption. And we all talk about corruption. in different segments or sectors of this country. But when corruption and the drive for money is backed by a willingness to use firepower, then we have entered dangerous territory.
Okay.
And the least fuse is becoming shorter by the day.
Let me bring Godwin in at this point. So, Godwin, how's your task force taking this, and are they willing to continue with their work? Hello, Godwin Armah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead. And
they are not deterred by this. They are willing to continue to work.
Godwin, can you reduce the volume on your radio set so we can hear you? Yes, Godwin, you can go ahead now. I think your line is getting bad. If you could reposition yourself so we can hear you, Godwin.
Okay.
Yes, I think you can go on now.
They are not.
The line is still bad, Godwin.
I think reposition myself.
Yes, reposition yourself, Godwin Armah, who's General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners. The commander of their task force has been shot, and we're having that conversation because we want to understand why are these illegal miners so bold? Why can they go ahead and shoot persons who are, protecting the environment? Who's supporting them? Who gives them, that assurance by which they do the things they do? Godwin, yes, I think it's okay now. Go ahead.
Yeah, the task force yesterday speaking to the commander. He said to me that look, we'll continue to save the waters that we have in this country, and they are not deterred by this action, and they will continue to work and protect Ghanaians. So the most of them work with the Southern commanders, the Ghana Army. So we met with the authorities, and they said they will be working in collaboration with us more, so that at the end of the day, those who perpetrated this act will be arrested. So there's that surety from the small scale miners to continue their patrols and to work. But let me clarify something. The issue of illegal mining is quite different from small scale mining. When we talk about small scale mining, it's quite different from illegal mining.
Sure, that's not
illegal mining. Now we have our members who have their own concessions, and illegal miners are even encroaching. And some of the communities, the trend that you have now is you get your license to even operate. These illegal miners will make sure that you will not be able to work. That's why I said they are bringing in this land guard system, and the whole thing is becoming a criminality. It's a network of people working together, getting support from some chiefs, some political guys at the local level for them to perpetrate this their illegality. So we need to look at it and stop. But you have even explosives aside the guns. The explosives that are being used by some of these illegal operators. It should go a long way.
Okay.
So it's not just the pollution. There's an eminent threat for the whole country, and we should look at it and then terminate it at the back.
Hello, Godwin. This is Mama V. I wonder if you have an update on the commander, because we know he had to undergo surgery. How is he doing?
Yeah, he's doing well. He's doing well. As I said, I spoke to him yesterday. I went there, spoke to him, and he's doing well. The military hospital is doing a very good job. They are taking care of him every given time. We have even 2 military guys assigned to him who are taking care of him. So he's in good hands. He's doing well.
Okay, we still have Godwin Armah, who's General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners, Professor Kwesi, security expert and Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs at the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center. And Ken Ashigbey is convener of the Media Coalition Against Galamsey. So let me start off with you, Ken, this time around, and I'll wrap it up with Professor Enin. So we know the situation. Prof has talked about a concerted effort. Some would say there are those concerned who are doing everything. But it looks like for those who do not care, their actions are thwarting every effort of those who are concerned. How do we, going forward, deal with this?
Well, Winston, I think you mentioned it right. We've seen Otumfuo, we've seen a few chiefs beginning to take the right decisions that ought to be taken. I would urge the president to take a cue from these eminent chiefs. See, because though in all of these communities that this are happening, there are people who are in charge. There are MCs, DCs who are responsible. There are two things happening here. It is either they are incompetent, and if they are incompetent, then they don't deserve to be, representing the president, or they are complicit. So we need to be seeing some more action. This is the small-scale miners who have taken initiative, working together and protecting the environment. If you ask my friend Godwin, he'll tell you that even the brim, for example, because of the work that they are doing there, that we're beginning to see the turbidity of the Densu, being restored. So what we need to do is just action. There's too much talk going on, and we all need to realize the fact that this is something that is going to take us all down. So we need to start holding people accountable. That's simply what it ought to be. That those who are breaking the law, there are enough laws in this country to, ensure that we are protecting ourselves. I just came back from Kigali. You wouldn't even dare put, because they know the repercussions, the implications of the things that is going to happen. So we need leadership to do what it ought to do. Holding people account. Those who are not doing the right thing, let us hold them to account. And let's take this as major concerns. So we should not have the situation where, even if, assuming it's true that the professor did not want to give you evidence, you have people like Heritage Impia, where there is ample evidence, including they themselves confessing in court when they went after Erasmus, that they were engaged in mining when the EPA had told the media coalition that they did not have a permit from the EPA. That is an illegality. What else do you need to be able to hold people like that accountable? So I would urge the AG, I would urge the IGP, that particular case, which if we treat this thing like this, it just gives people like these people who pull the gun, the impudence to think that they can do anything and get away with it. We need to be treating this thing as we would treat any heinous crime. Because what we're doing to ourselves, that's what it ought to be. And make sure that those who fall foul of the law are actually punished, and those who are doing the right thing are protected in doing their work. This is really a serious thing. And I'm hoping that this will be a wake-up call to all of us to say, this is not something we ought to be joking with. That if we don't take this carefully, other countries have gone the way we've gone. And, with all the risk that is around us, it's just for some of these terrorists to come and go into some of these camps. And then by the time we see it, we are in for trouble. And it's also important that leadership across the churches, everybody also support to say, this is something that we should all not be sleeping with.
Okay. Prof, where do we go from here? And let me just find this out from you. Is it the case that, even our response to Professor Frimpong Boateng is further giving these persons the assurance that nothing will be done about illegal mining, hence their actions?
Well, I think I've made it categorically clear that the behavior and actions by the state and its institutions emboldening those who are engaged in these activities. Not only that it has reached a point where the sum total of the interest involved in this criminality will now begin to challenge the authority of the state. Because the sum total of those involved in this organized criminality have become more powerful than the individual interested parties located within the interstices of the state machinery. Because those who are located within the state machinery and who are involved cannot publicly come out and say we are involved, so So please, Mr. IGP, go and fight them, or the armed forces go and fight them. And that is what gives the organized criminals an edge when they decide to challenge the authority of the state. And were we to do a very careful tabulation of instances where state representatives have been attacked, abused, threatened, either psychologically or physically, or their family members being hounded, we will paint a picture of the sheer scale and extent to which the state is now under threat from these people. And I think Godwin made a fine point between the small scale miners with legal permits and then the galamseys. Godwin and his people will continue to be under threat because if we do the calculation of how much money is siphoned out of Ghana from these two engagements, the legal engagement in which Godwin and his people will declare their production and then pay taxes, as against the illegalities in which people will just smuggle the precious metal out, then the interest is in supporting the illegalities. So Godwin and his people will continue to be under threat. They will be hounded. They will be chased. They will be shot at. And last week, I was teaching at the police college, and I used mining as an example of how even statutory security forces are now being perceived as legitimate targets of those involved in these illegalities because they think they are protected or they will be protected. This is just the beginning. It's going to get considerably worse.
Well, Professor Kwesi, thank you very, very much for joining us this morning. He's Director, Faculty of Academic Affairs at the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center. Ken Ashigbey is convener for Media Coalition Against Galamsey. Godwin Armah is General Secretary of the Ghana National Association of Small Scale Miners. Thanks to all of you for making time to join the conversation. We've heard from Professor Kwesi, Ken Ashigbey, and Godwin Armah. This is a situation we've known for some time now. It's been with us. We've seen, even sometimes the military operation Vanguard, HALT, engaging in shootouts with these persons. And you ask yourself a very simple question. What in God's name makes these guys so bold to want to do that? Who's backing them that they are so bold and brave to engage in a shootout?
Have you heard, apart from Isa One, any Galamsey kingpin that has been prosecuted in this country before? We hear all the time. We hear the people in the pits, right?
Yeah.
We always hear the small boys. They are every time we count the numbers. Last time I heard, Triaya was talking about 800 or so being prosecuted. Now I ask again: have you heard about any kingpin, any serious person funding the Galamsey operation that's been prosecuted before? All of the talk about the big mining companies, people are brazenly destroying our forests, destroying our water bodies. This is the Republic of Ghana that a minister told this republic that 500 excavators, they were not pens, they were not phones, they were not actual small things. 500 excavators were missing. The latest update we were asked was that, that number was even not the right number. It was lower than that. Up till today, Winston, have you heard whether or not anybody's gone to jail on it, or we have found the excavators? This small country with small land size, with 30 million people from north to south, 500 excavators is missing within our lands. It tells you one simple story. We are ultimately complicit. You see, the people we have asked to fight it are the ones doing it. So when the people who are supposed to be fighting are the ones doing it, there's a cover-up. That cover-up, unless God, because there is no way a small gentleman pretending to be fighting in a small district can fix the problem. When they go there, do you know what they tell them? They say a big man, others from above says that you cannot do this. Then they skip the place. But this is the republic where we went to see people doing illegal mining, and we saw the areas, a company in the forest. Then we bent the evidence. So how then were we going to prosecute them? Up till now, we say we are investigating. How long has the very institution called the Media Coalition, together with the people and co, petitioned the IGP and also the CID to investigate that issue related to heritage mining? How long has it been? Since last year. Have you heard any update on that? Have you heard anybody arrested for investigation? Have you heard anybody prosecuted on that? Because that will be targeting the people at the top, not the small boys in the pit. When we continue, they are the ones who buy the guns and give it to them. They are the ones who are buying the machines and give it to them. They are the ones who are buying the sanfans, and we know that the small boys on the ground do not have what it takes to do these things. But we are pretending that we cannot target the right people. And I'm saying, unless we line up the big people involved, which we always talk about. And I've heard some say, oh, when we are prosecuted, they don't need the big people. They don't name them because they know you cannot do anything about it. They know they are more protected by those people than what you are pretending to do to them in these courts. So I don't know. Sometimes it sounds like a broken record. Listen, this is a country that says that we are preparing to fight terrorism, but we can't deal with illegal mining. You think about it deeply. Look at the kind of funding that terrorism goes through and the kind of illicit structures that it runs on its own. We cannot deal with that. And yet we are so convinced that we are on top of this matter. It is because we have agreed indirectly. The top class of this country, the people that we are paying to fight it, have agreed with their collaborators that we are pretending to fight it. Unless, and you see, there's only one DC who has been fingered as very active also in what they call Galamsey. What were you told about him? That he had a funeral.
Yes.
That he had to go and finish his funeral before we actually take him on. In the Republic of Ghana, we can hold on to crime and decide that you are going to let the guy go and finish his private avocations. When he finishes, then we deal with him. If it were to be you and it were even a traffic offense, would that be applied to you? I'm saying we have elevated it. We have separated the systems. We pretend to be fighting with small boys. Then we put a couple of them before court. That is the scheme that gives them the strength. Because in this state, when you feel that you are supported by the machinery of the state, you can be brazen, you can be very reckless, and still you get away with it. And that's what's happening. It is until the time that we pretend we are putting our lives on the line or putting our presidency on the line and actually get to act on it, that we see DC is being removed, that we see district mining inspectors. We elected, we sacked some, we recruited more. This is because we said the 9 district mining inspectors, their terrain was too big. Even districts, some of the districts, even regional ministers, we have 1. But we said 9 district mining inspectors, their terrain was too big, so we have extended it. We did all of these things with one single aim. Get somebody who's closer to the scene and monitoring and get them arrested and prosecuted. But we are pretending all the time that that's what we want to do to solve the problem. And now when I hear you say, oh, it's a national call. So all of us, with the greatest of respect, there's a reason why a few people were selected and given the mandate of the state. Those people are leading the fight. If it was all of us our call, perhaps you should give all of us guns to protect the water bodies close to us. But we don't have them. So if we pretend, and it's the pretense that pays me, because that's what the conversations, all this forum that we use our money to organize, all of these conversations we'll be having is because the pretense is that the people who are supposed to be fighting it are complicit and they're not fighting the thing.
So you understand why Professor Kwesi says that the state is compromised. And he also, I think he just summarizes it beautifully where we are. He says the state has failed in classifying illegal mining as an existential threat. Obviously, because this is an organized criminality. And I have just one thing to say with regards to the latest development in terms of the shooting of the commander. See, if we don't find these persons behind this, if we do not arrest this gentleman that we're told is on the run, his colleagues, the people who work with him, they will be emboldening them more, because after all, he shot a whole commander that's leading the Taskforce, that's leading the fights against them, and he's still hanging around. The state should deploy every resource available to it. And this is Ghana. If we want to find a person, that single person we're told shot the commander, we will find him today. Until we do that, it would just mean that we love to talk about the fact that we're fighting, but we are actually not really fighting, which would mean that the state simply doesn't care that the few people are destroying all our resources, water. We've shared reports here, investigative pieces. We've shared documentaries. Erasta has done so much work. We're now having babies being born with deformities. We're sitting here in Accra. We are not too far from the issues because we are breathing the same air.
Look, I just have a video someone sent me. And you can see the guns, some pump action guns, seized from illegal miners.
Where did they get these guns from?
And you ask the question, and he adds, and this is what he adds: we meet miners who are armed to the teeth on our rounds. Lots of them are armed. And I spoke with, I spoke with a SEPS official, so a customs, official of the Ghana Revenue Authority. He said he was actually driving through a mining area, and these guys were engaged in illegal mining. You know that the SEPS officials are sometimes armed. Yeah. So he was going to one of the border towns to check. He met these guys who were armed with AK-47, and they stopped him. He quickly had to hide his pistol and say, "Oh, maybe a border guard, as in, look, I'm a border official. I'm just going to check what is happening at the border."
Wow.
And the guy said, "Okay." That was around 9 p.m. He got there, slept there till the following morning, and he left. They operate at night. They have guns. If they see any car, somebody comes by the road, is asking you questions. If they feel they are at risk, they start firing, and that's the end.
So the illegal people are now interrogating the people who have the
rights
to be at those places.
This guy,
and
this guy who was talking to me said, look, he was walking with his assistant, and he's a senior official. It's not like a small boy. He's a senior official. He was like, look, at that moment, his only prayer was to survive.
Of course. What else?
Because he was driving through a hilly area, and said, these guys could have just killed me and pushed me, and said he died in an accident.
Easy. Wow.
So, look, enough of the lip service. Enough. Like our people say, show working. Let's see the evidence on the ground.